Oh, good morning, gamers. Didn't see you there. A lot of things happened this week, so let's jump into it. The stories for today are King of the Silent Hill 2, Throne and Liberty, Switch 2 rumors, Switch emulation, PSN outage, and Freaky Friday Halo Fortnight. First up, the fog is lifted on Bloober Team's Silent Hill 2 remake, and the reviewers are just gushing blood. Gushing. Every critic review I've seen has had heaps of praise with very little negatives. Bloober Team has seemed to have created a smash hit of a remake. Many people worried that the developer didn't have the quality standards to do the beloved horror game justice after the mid-level reviews of their last game, The Medium, underwhelmed audiences. The game seems to have taken a page out of the Resident Evil remakes book and switched to a more modern third-person over-the-shoulder style of action combat, which worried some reviewers but eventually won them over by the end of it. In addition to the graphical overhaul, the remake adds plenty of new puzzles, areas to explore, and improved combat. On the negative side, some complain of a lot of added padding of content by backtracking to previous areas in order to solve some of the puzzles. I do wish games weren't all just remakes, but I can't complain when they improve on the initial product's quality. The game is currently sitting at 87 on Metacritic, but user scores are yet to be seen and usually reflect more of the real story. Bloober Team seems to have learned from their past games and created a loving and worthy tribute to the original. Early this summer, in an interview, Bloober Team stated that after the release of Silent Hill 2 Remake, they plan to make more third-person games that rely on ambiance, suspense, and thrill of the unknown in a tense atmosphere instead of over-reliance on jump scares like their previous games relied on. The Silent Hill 2 remake will be released for all on PC and PS5 on October 8th for 70 bones.
The throne, irresistible to those who seek supreme power. Once held by my noble king, only to fall, like so many others, into the fires of betrayal.
NCSoft and Amazon have released Throne and Liberty to all on October 1st, achieving the number 4 spot on Steam charts. The free-to-play Korean game has receiving mixed reviews on Steam due to disconnects, invisible characters, server issues, bad localization, microtransactions, and easy anti-cheat kicking Steam Deck players. Nonetheless, it was sitting at nearly 320,000 concurrent players. These numbers don't really actually mean much after their last game, New World, broke 913,000 players and is now at 9,000 max. Lost Ark also had 1.3 million players and now sits at 20,000-ish max. Throne and Liberty, however, is also available on PS5 and Xbox, so the numbers are surely higher. On October 3rd, the game's first post-launch 1.1 patch was released to fix some of the issues, including PS5 screen tearing issues and Xbox world map resolution. Fixes for all platforms include improved UI features, including boss mechanic markers appearing more reliably, unresponsive D-pads, and fixes to some of the localization errors. October 4th, Amazon also released a roadmap for the rest of the year, including quality of life updates, new milestones, and a Halloween event in October, Castle Sieges, a tax delivery event, and 2 start co-op dungeons in November, and the first major update patch in December. The full day-to-day itinerary for October is available on their site. Throne and Liberty is free to play and available on PC, PS5, and Xbox Series consoles. The rumor mill began churning out Switch 2 rumors in force last week. Now take this story with the largest crystals of kosher sea salt. In May, Nintendo announced that it intended to reveal the Switch 2 during the current fiscal year, which ends in March 2025, while leakers insist that it will happen by the end of this year. Adding further fuel to the fire is that a part supplier has said that the Switch 2 mass production will start in September with real-life parts and 3D models of the chassis online back on September 18th on Reddit, found on Chinese social media complete with specs. Developers have also apparently been briefed not to expect the console released before April 2025. The new system supposedly comes with 12 gigabytes of dual-channel LP DDR5X RAM at 7,500 megatransfers per second, 256 gigabytes of internal storage, HDMI 2.1, and an 8-inch screen. There will apparently also be 2 USB-C ports, one on the top and one at the bottom for the dock. A new magnetic attachment mechanism for its Joy-Con controllers also seems to be planned. On September 25th, Shigeru Miyamoto stated that, "I hope people will understand and refrain from dragging Nintendo into the console war, which focuses on high-spec hardware performance. Nintendo will continue to use various technologies to create things in a way that's unique to Nintendo." A new October 3rd leak seems to suggest that the Gen 10 Pokemon game will break the current release cycle of 3 years and will be released on the Switch 2 sometime in the holiday season of 2026. The links below will not contain the Reddit link to the leak files. You can find them easily on Reddit if you're interested. I'm just not inclined to invite Nintendo to start any litigation with me, much like our next story. Nintendo has shut down the Ryujinx Switch emulator. After successfully suing and shutting down the Yuzu emulator in March, forcing even Steam to remove the program from the platform, Nintendo has now shut down its main competing emulator. The story seems to be that Nintendo convinced the lead developer GDK-chan to stop the project and remove all related assets he was in control of, removing the download page and GitHub with an explanation posted to the group's Discord and Twitter pages. Everything seems to have happened behind the scenes with the lead developer, as no DMCA takedown request seems to have been issued on any of the platforms mentioned. While emulators are not illegal, it is thought that Nintendo could win in court on piracy charges. Nintendo is a famously litigious company, and it's customary in Japan to protect intellectual property viciously from perceived bad actors. Even a week prior to this story, Nintendo hit a YouTuber, Retro Game Corpse, with several copyright strikes for showing many Nintendo games running on emulators on his channel, forcing him to no longer show any Nintendo-related games on his channel anymore. While this emulator project is gone, there is still Suyu, a fork of the Yuzu emulator, and always the possibility of the rest of the Ryujinx group going forward with a fork of their own. The way I see it, emulating dead consoles is fair game, but if the console is still in production, it's probably best to wait till it's out of production to go all in on it. It's just really frustrating when the hardware lacks so much that the console itself becomes an immersion-breaking experience. It's a tough call. Early last week, PlayStation users began to experience an infuriating ad-induced apocalypse as Sony seemed to have added intrusive ads to the PlayStation dashboard. Background art is usually shown when highlighting a game icon, but instead triggered full-screen game news and ads for the game or promoted sales for games players already owned. This misstep sparked major backlash as users flocked to Reddit and Twitter to complain, as the console settings to disable ads failed to stop them. PlayStation stated that this was a bug, and they rushed out a fix on Monday, September 30th, around 6:10 p.m., which I can see how promos of things you own was a bug, but the intent was probably to introduce ads for things like DLC and other games in the franchises you already own. Soon after releasing the fix, a worldwide PSN outage occurred the next day at 8 a.m. Eastern and lasted until Tuesday, October 1st. This lasted a whole 8 hours and affected not just the PS5, but also the PS3, PS4, and PS Vita. The outage resurfaced past trauma of the Great Sony outage of 2011, in which Sony was compromised in a hack that lasted 23 consecutive days. I remember that hack vividly. I was working as a QA tester at THQ at the time, and we had no way to test anything on the PS3. See, the way it works is usually daily you get like a new build, and the new build would come through over the internet. So without PSN working, we couldn't get new builds. So we were all forced to use the Xbox 360 version, and we'd all hope that when PSN came back up, we'd be able to find the same bugs in the PS3 version, and it was crazy. I even got hacked. I was one of the actual people affected by the hack. Like, I remember my credit card information was stolen. I had to leave work and go to the bank, and they told me some person was trying to steal $5,000 out of my account in some European country. I can't remember all of it, but it was insane. Or maybe if you don't remember that, the great Sony Picture hack of 2014, when North Korea hacked Sony Pictures and released a ton of info on the future Spider-Man and Mario Brothers movies. They also released the Charlie Sheen diagnosis before he could tell anybody, because the executives were talking about it in their email, and tons of employee information was released, all because of a mediocre Seth Rogen comedy movie about setting up an interview to kill the North Korean leader. Sony hasn't released any information about this being a hack and only states that it was a glitch. So it was probably a glitch, after all. Last Friday, October 4th, Epic Games announced that it was officially introducing a testing module for first-person camera mode in Fortnite. Creators have been using fake first-person views using camera tricks for a while, and Epic decided to implement the module in an official capacity for players. The first-person camera module will be available when making new modes to make them more immersive. The feature is experimental and has a few glitches, like the first-person player model just disappearing when missing reload animations activate. So the introduction of this feature is surely building to a new FPS BR mode. And interestingly, in a Freaky Friday scenario, 343 Studios has announced that it is introducing a third-person mode in Halo Infinite on the same day. While some large weapons in the past would put you into a third-person perspective, it was never a general feature. Players will not be able to change perspectives on the fly in-game, but will be able to test it out in a new firefight mode, and it will also be usable in the Forge creation mode. They stated that it is possible to do in PvP, but said nothing about the campaign. This game has also had a number of mods to use a third-person perspective, but this edition makes it easier for players to create new modes using the feature. 343 has not announced the release date for this new mode. And that's it for this week. Next up, the look at the game releases for the next week ahead. Have a great week, have fun, play some games. I hope you have a good afternoon, a good evening, and good night.